Mike Jacob. I'm with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. We represent ocean carriers, marine terminal operators, labor employers on the waterfront.
Zachery Wasserman, who's the chair of this, has been a development land lawyer for John Fisher, the person who wants to take over the Howard Terminal. I mean, do you feel that that's acceptable?
You know, I've known Zach for a very long time and actually consider Zach a friend. But we have submitted a complaint to the commission in writing in our comments that we believe that there is a conflict of interest with Zach participating.
And under the Fair Political Practices Commission, if you have somebody, and in this case it's the chair, who's actually worked for somebody who wants them to vote on it, do you think the whole commission should even be taking a vote on it?
You know, that's a great question. There's going to be further discussion about the role of both Mr. Wasserman, whether or not it's appropriate to occur at this time. You know, I can't speculate necessarily on how that's going to turn out.
The look of it, I mean, it seems pretty...
Yes, it has the hallmarks of an appearance of impropriety, doesn't it? When you were someone's attorney and you're supposed to be rendering an independent view on behalf of the public, which is what this commission does and is supposed to do, it does raise that appearance of an impropriety when your former attorney is then sitting as the chair of that agency. That is a tough place to be if you're trying to reassure the public that everything is clean and it's on the up and up. I would never begin to impugn Zach's personal integrity. I don't think that's the question. I think the question is one you asked. How does it look? Is it clean? And can you assure the public that there is no bias involved there? And that's very hard to do.
And it was said today at the commission that the maritime, this commission, the staff consulted the maritime industry in making their recommendations. Is that true?
You know, this has been a long process, and we've all been engaged in a lot of different conversations over the last 3 years, coming up with the recommendations for the Seaport Planning Advisory Committee. That Seaport Planning Advisory Committee did engage with us, and they recommended no. After that process, the commission staff had gone back to the Port of Oakland and to the Oakland aides, to the City of Oakland, basically giving them another bite at the apple that wasn't afforded to the public and wasn't part of a conversation with the seaport industry. So we have not, for the recommendations that are in front of this commission, we have not been consulted. We haven't had a consultation with the staff. There are numbers that are being presented by the port that frankly we disagree with.
What are the numbers?
The port is recommending that you use a long-term growth projection of 1% per year in our throughput at the Port of Oakland. And you know, that is just not, A, it's not prudent for planning purposes, but B, it's not realistic. It's not realistic to expect us as the folks that are actually investing in the leases that are necessary to keep the port moving and hiring workers to assume that we can only grow at 1% a year for the next 30 years. That doesn't support the investment that we're making in the environment. That doesn't support the investment we're making in hiring 1,000 new casuals. That doesn't support the investment we need to make in new equipment. And that doesn't support the rate of growth that we negotiated through our leases with the Port of Oakland itself. The port expects our revenues to grow 4 or more % a year on a compound annual growth rate through the end of this decade. That's based on growth in our volumes. How could they expect us to only grow at 1% but pay them a rental increase of 4% a year? That makes no sense. They're basically asking us to guarantee that we're having operating losses or that our margins are decreasing over time by investing in their infrastructure. That doesn't make sense.
And they've said here that Howard Terminal is really not important for the port, that it can be used for other purposes. What's your view on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming in and saying all the uses at the port are temporary is just absolutely 100% fact. And it's dispositive of nothing. Everything we do at the port is temporary. It's public property. We don't own it. We can only do things by lease or by concession or by a contract. So walking in and saying we could terminate all these uses whenever we want is not an answer to the question, right? The answer to the question is what are you investing in? What are you planning for as a region and why? And that's what this commission process is supposed to do. It's supposed to weigh long-term goals and then make a determination about where in the Bay do we want to accommodate this type of activity. And we've made those decisions as a region for decades. We've said the Port of San Francisco is not going to be a working port. It's going to be a destination for visitors and for tourists and for shopping and for a lot of different commercial activities that are important to the growth of a region. And we've made the determination that that is not going to be what we do in Oakland. We're going to focus on making sure we're feeding people, we're clothing people, and we're moving goods and creating jobs that are appropriate for the type of infrastructure we built there. We have built billions of dollars around our access to highways, to rail, and to the seaport, actually dredging out our channels so we can get the largest ships that are calling in the Pacific, that are already calling LA Long Beach and already calling at Seattle and Tacoma to come to Oakland. And that's of critical importance, and we spent hundreds of millions of dollars on that channel. Those infrastructure investments are there. We need to protect them, and then we need to protect all the commerce and all the jobs that are related to that infrastructure.